The Blue Devils are 5-0, coached by Manny Diaz, and heading to Atlanta to take on Georgia Tech. And Manny Diaz joins us on the Adam Gold Show. Coach, thank you very much. Congratulations. I know it's Thursday already, and you guys have probably put Saturday well in the rearview mirror, but that was an impressive comeback. I wanted to talk to you Monday about it, but I know you were otherwise busy. Real quick, if you could sum up why you think that happened.
Well, our guys are special. The way that they face adversity and their mental toughness, and we had already shown that. We already had two fourth quarter comebacks.
Yes.
Coming into that day, and then as I told them, we actually trained for that during training camp. When we scrimmage from being behind, to kind of feel that illusion of pressure that you have to be perfect and you got to try to make it all up at once. And really, the way that Carolina was playing us, that was going to be impossible. Like, they were playing very loose in their coverage and trying to double our wideouts and take our passing game away. So we knew we had to go to work on the line of scrimmage, and it wasn't all perfect, and we still had some share of adversity in the second half, but we dominated both lines of scrimmage, and ultimately in football that usually results in winning.
Yeah, I remember the game against Northwestern. You guys had to come back there. The comeback against Middle Tennessee State. I mean, I know there are people who might be critics and go, man, Duke should be 2-3, but you guys are 5-0. I talked to Dave Harding last week in advance of the game, and I asked him, give me your analysis. How do you see this playing out? He goes, well, Duke's really good at throwing the ball down the field, and Carolina's not good at stopping that, so he likes that matchup. That was not there. That part of the game had disappeared. How do you convince a team that is used to being able to make big plays in the passing game that even though you're down 20-0 in the third quarter, that the run game, we see so many teams abandon the run. This should be a lesson to all of college football. You should write a book. Why not to abandon the run even though you're down 3 touchdowns?
Well, because you're right. That was a matchup we felt would favor us going into the game. And to their credit, as they analyzed themselves after the JMU loss, they really changed their coverage structure to eliminate one-on-one opportunities for our guys down the field. So we had to run the ball. And look, when you're down 17-0 or 20-0, it seems like a lot of points, but that's only because in football we decide to award 6 for a goal, right? If it was baseball or soccer or hockey, it'd have been 3-0. And so all we had to do is really, I know this sounds crazy, but just that mindset of just 3 stops and 3 scores, and you'd be right in it. And you're normally going to get about 7 possessions and a half. So you just had to go to work. We held them to a big field goal early on, helped by a penalty. Mm-hmm. And then once we got that first touchdown, I think the kids, they're like, wait a minute, like, this is really not all that far off. And then momentum just gained and we've just finished the stronger team.
Manny Diaz, Duke head football coach, is joining us here in the Adam Gold Show. Star Thomas is aptly named, and I know he's had a bunch of good weeks in a row here, but most people thought it would be Jaquez Moore, as leading your running crew. Nobody knew you guys were this deep at that position, but he ran like somebody that is an All-American. He had never had more than 700 yards rushing, I don't believe, at his other stops. I mean, what did you see in him? Obviously, you're happy to have him. He was just amazing against Carolina.
Yeah, thank goodness we have him. I mean, we miss the heck out of Jaquez Moore. I mean, we still feel like he's one of our top players on our team. But we had to bring in age. We really liked our young running backs we had behind Jaquez, but they just were so inexperienced, and not just in running the ball, but blitz pickup, just everything that a running back has to do when they don't have the ball in their hands. And Star has gotten better and better every week. But you can't talk about Star in our running game without talking about our offensive line.
Right.
People forget we only had 5 healthy guys in spring. 2 of our starters right now weren't even on our campus until midsummer. So the way that Jeff Nord and Johnny Brewer have put that offensive line together, and the way that they're getting better and better every week, I think has allowed Star Thomas, Peyton Jones, to get to the second level, and now they can really show their talent once they're one-on-one with defensive backs.
I'm going to get to your bread and butter defense in a second, but I am curious about this. I actually just talked to Wes Durham, and we were talking about it a little less than an hour ago. You come here. There is a culture of Duke football. David Cutcliffe built it Mike Elko extended it, maybe improved upon it. And you have your own coaching philosophy. So you have things that you want to do, and there are players here who had been doing things a certain way, and it was obviously very successful under Mike Elko. How did you blend certain things? How did you essentially build on the culture that already existed to produce what we have seen, the mental and physical toughness that allows you to be 5-0?
Well, I think the key, and we talked about this before, the key was keeping David Feely,
Right.
in the weight room, because that is really the key to the culture piece to it. So the players believe that was such a key part of their success and why they won. So with that foundation being intact and the players having the confidence in that platform gives us a chance to win. Now it's just, the next step was, how do we win every game? Right. And whether that's what we do schematically, how we train, how we talk about mental toughness and mental fitness. I think those have been the tools that have really stood out for us in the first 5 games. Because guess what? College football is usually determined by whether you win or lose close games.
Right.
And we have won 3 close games, and UConn, we could have scored at the end. We in essence took a knee, but that's okay, because when at the end of the year, all they ask is how many you won. And, so I think that's the important part is schematically having an ability where we can attack on both sides of the ball and give everyone we play problems if we're doing what we do the right way. And that's really what we talked about all offseason. It doesn't really matter who we play. It only matters how we play. And getting our kids at Duke to believe that has been really the fun part of this journey, because they're getting better and better at it every week.
Manny Diaz, Duke head football coach, is joining us here in the Adam Gold Show. You guys are as good or better than anybody else in the country, not just in the ACC, at getting in the opposing team's backfield, sacks, tackles for loss. Some of that is obviously by design and being aggressive defensively. So how would you describe what you are trying to do with your defense?
Yeah, that's been a trait everywhere we've been. We do believe in havoc. We believe in negative plays.
Mm-hmm.
All the analytics tell you that if your odds of scoring your points per possession on a play on a drive that has a negative play goes way, way down. Same thing with a sack. The way that we cover, we try to take the quarterback off the first look. We want to make the quarterback hold on to the football. And normally at some point in college, either quarterbacks are not good enough to cycle through their progressions, or the protection breaks down, or both. And that's how you get quarterback hurries, pressures, hits, all those type things. So all that sounds good. I think just what's been rewarding is how quickly our players have taken to that scheme. I think our coaching staff, led by Jonathan Packey, they've done a phenomenal job of instilling, because they played really good defense here the 2 years prior.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think they see that this gives them a chance at another level to really dominate and take over games, and make game type winning plays, whether it was a game winning interception a week ago, some of the sacks we had on and pressure we had on key third downs in the second half last week, to really, force action and set our offense back up with short fields.
I mean, I felt sorry for Jacoby Criswell at times. You guys were all over him. And yeah, especially in the second half, you guys lived in North Carolina's backfield. Looking ahead to Saturday night against Georgia Tech, and I remember how eye-opening it was to watch them in the opener against Florida State, and how difficult their offense was to stop for the Seminoles. When you look and you're trying to stop what those guys present, what are the biggest challenges? What is job one for your defense?
Well, you mentioned, what our defense is good at. You have to give them credit. They've not been sacked once this year.
I don't
which is
understand
absurd. Yeah, one month in the season, that's absurd. And the quarterback's only thrown 1 interception. So they're doing a really good job of protecting the football. They're not giving up negative plays. So that's a great platform for victory for them. A team that led the ACC in rushing a year ago. They're very good against the run defensively. So, the first thing you got to do against the Brent Key football team is you have to out-hit them. You know what I mean? That's a tall task, because they play with a lot of physicality. And then the threat that we have, really at the greatest measure, that at any point this year, is just that dual threat quarterback.
Right.
A guy that can beat you with his arm, with explosive wide receivers, but then he can also pull it, and he's got long speed and can run for explosive touchdowns, which he has all year long.
Manny Diaz, Duke head coach, is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. To a bigger picture thing, and then we'll let you go. I saw a lot of pictures of you with the victory bell. In your career might epitomize this as much as anything. You go so many places, whether it's Texas or Mississippi State or Penn State or NC State, right? You've been so many places, the head coach at Miami. A rivalry like this, it's hard to know about it from the outside. How did you ingrain yourself in it? How did you know, what the meaning what meaning it held for fans, alumni, the players who had been here and lost each year to North Carolina? How did you basically ingrain yourself in it, and why does it mean so much?
Oh yeah, you're right, Adam. Anywhere you go, you get a sense of what's going on. You mentioned, having lived in the Triangle for 6 years when we were at State, it's hard not to see, the UNC Duke rivalry. You talk to the people here, you talk to people around the program, and certainly the run that they had been on. And anytime you're in any rivalry game, and it's gotten one sided one way or another. When we got to Miami with Mark Richt, I think FSU had won 6 or 7 in a row in that series. So anytime you go a long time, we didn't have a guy in our locker room who had ever beaten them. Right. So anytime you go a long time like that, you get the sense of how important it is to everybody there. And shoot, I went to a men's soccer match a couple of weeks ago, Duke UNC, and the place was jam packed. So you could see even on that night, how important it is to both of these institutions. So to see the joy that it created and all the people surrounding Duke football and Duke athletics, the student body getting a chance to storm the field again, which seems like for the second or third year in a row, and creating those nights at Wallace Wade Stadium, which is when we're trying to really, make this a very, very difficult place to play. I mean, the win-loss record now over the last 3 years at home is really good, and the student body is starting to understand, wow, like we actually have an impact on these football games the same way we do over at Cameron Indoor.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great atmosphere when the place is packed and your students are going crazy, and you get to lay in front of the victory bell. I saw how you rang it. You got into it, and I appreciate that. That was dynamite. Are you worried at all about a letdown coming off an emotional win?
It's always going to be something that's there, So what you do is you watch all the signs. I think there's the physical toll. They had a bye last week. This is our sixth game in 6 weeks. But what we've talked to our players about is that the standard's a standard, and we didn't set out to go 5-0. We didn't set out to just beat North Carolina. We have much bigger goals, and the standard doesn't really care what happened last week. And really, what we drew the connection is being 5-0 is the same thing as being down 20-0. It's only a reflection of what's happened in the past. It does not have anything to do with what happens next, and that's a mistake that everybody makes. Just like everybody who might have thought the game was over when it was 20-0. Or players who assume that we're in a place of comfort because we're 5-0. When the ball, hits the foot on Saturday night, we don't get 1st and 5 because we've won our first 5 games. It's going to be 1st down and 10, and so we have to go back to what wins a football game and start the process all over again.
Well, good luck against the Yellow Jackets. Appreciate your time, Coach. It's been fun to watch you guys for 5 weeks, but we'll forget those 5 weeks and we'll look ahead to Saturday night against the Yellow Jackets. Good luck down in Atlanta.
Thank you, Adam.